Hey, everybody, guess what? We are live this afternoon. We're talking about fun things, Mother's Day, balloons. Camille's here with us. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. It's just waiting on some more of that rain to come in, but doing good.
We've had quite a few spells of rain the last few days, haven't we?
Well, yeah, it's not great for balloons, but it's all right. I've been dodging the storms, so.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Your business is Glitter and Lightning. You do these incredible balloon displays. I wish you had one behind you that we could see.
I
Um,
know.
you did something right when everything started getting shut down. You started putting balloons everywhere in your neighborhood, which became such a hot topic. Tell us about that.
Well, I just really wanted to spread some joy. There was when the shutdown first started, and even now, still, there's just been a lot of anxiety and fear, and it's a lot to handle. And I think balloons help us. They immediately make us think of celebrating. And I know it feels like sometimes right now that we don't have anything to celebrate, but we all have something to be for and to celebrate. And I really just wanted to do what I could to spread joy and and get some people distracted from all the fear and turn the news off for a minute. Let's just have some pretty balloons.
And I feel like when you see a balloon, especially these really interesting arches and decorations that you do, you can't help but smile.
Yeah, they're very joy filled. I haven't found anyone where balloons puts them in a bad mood. So, and they're universally loved for the most part. So.
Yeah. Tell me what the reaction was from your neighbors when you started decorating people's front porches.
They loved it. I think at first, especially if they haven't seen my work, they don't really know what it is. They think, maybe just like a few. Well, first of all, I don't use helium for the most part. I use air filled. So I think people hear balloons, they just think a little balloon cluster, like helium, a few helium balloons. So when they started seeing them around the neighborhood and seeing, that I do these bigger installations or these little, garlands, just a nice fun little pop on the front porch or the mailbox. Then I started getting like a lot more of the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, I want one too. Started to catch on. I even had a few moms call me and be like, I didn't think to order one. Now my kids are so mad at me. They want one too. So it kind of, it started off slow. I had like a few neighbors be like, oh, that'd be great. Because they knew me and knew what I did and they loved it. And then once people started seeing it, it really caught on and fortunately caught on outside the neighborhood. And I started getting calls and now I can't do them, unfortunately can't do all of Nashville for free. I did it for my neighborhood. I don't have the resources to do it for everyone, but it's been nice. People have been really excited to have an option when you can't have a party or do some of the things that you normally do. This has been a great option for the now trendy like drive-by parties.
Yes. So that's been a thing lately. We had one in my neighborhood, and yes, they didn't have a balloon thing. They should have called you. But that's been so interesting to see how things have changed like that. Like birthday parties, you're mentioning you're doing a lot of birthday parties, and so if you can only drive by, you got to have something for people to see or some kind of display.
Yeah. So it's people have been really excited about it. It's it makes it fun and feel like still a party. So
you usually do like really large events. Tell us about some of the other things, installations you've had in the past.
Yeah, I usually working small has been different for me, and I find myself like having to stop myself, like, no, Camille, stop! It's not going to be 20 feet. But I usually do. Like, I do a lot of corporate events. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Like right before the shutdown, I did Nashville Humane Society had a big event, so I did like the whole stage. I've done a lot of grand openings, like for businesses. So you'll see them like all on the outside of the buildings. Of course, that takes a lot of balloons. So that kind of thing. So I'm used to working more large scale, but I've really had fun doing all these little garlands, all around. So it's been fun to kind of have a new project like every day. I'm used to having like one or two big projects that I'm working on for weeks at a time. So now I'm like, oh, what's today? Mermaids. Okay. It's a fun, like, new theme every day. So
Tell us how you got started working with balloons, because I feel like balloons have always been used, but I feel like the new use and new ways that people are putting them together has really become popular, I don't know, in the last year and a half or couple of years.
yeah. No, I mean, I didn't even realize this was a career, and I don't think it was 5 years ago. So it's definitely a trend that I think has had some staying power. It's been a few years and it keeps growing. Like, people really, really like it. What got me into it is I actually have two little girls, and my oldest, who is now 6 years old, her first birthday party, so that was roughly 6 years ago, I saw some balloons on Pinterest, and any crafting, like just working with pretty colors, that's my happy place. Like, I could do that all day. So I would, for her first birthday, I did this huge balloon install, and I never even thought about doing it as a career. It wasn't until years later that I actually did one for my church. They were doing a Movies in the Park for the Pixar movie Up, which has a ton of balloons.
Oh, yeah.
So I offered to help to do a lot of balloons, to do a big balloon installation. And after that is when I started getting calls. Some like event planners saw it, and there was a bigger community there as opposed to just the people who come to my daughter's birthday party. So I started getting calls, and it turned into a business. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's fascinating. What has been your most memorable event that you've decorated for?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, let me think. Most memorable, I will say this. I've done some work. I've done a few different installs. They do a big event yearly, Cool Springs Plastic Surgery, their big main office, which is in Brentwood. They have me come in, and they have this great massive spiral staircase in the front of their lobby. And so we basically do balloons coming down like 2 stories of it. And it's like, it covers. So it's like this waterfall of balloons. So that's always a fun, I love a good staircase. You got a good staircase, I'm all over it.
So a 2-story staircase installation, how long does that take to create, put together, install?
That takes, actually installing, usually I'm talking with the client for a few weeks, like concepts and that kind of stuff. But to actually install it, that takes like a full day. Like, I'm there most of the day, especially if I'm inflating everything on site. Sometimes I'll prep some of it. Like, if it needs to go up quickly, I prep and bring we unload. But yeah, it's that one I tend to, but the good news with that one is they're not open on the weekends, on Sundays. So I come in on Sunday all day. So
There you
if
go.
I have all day, I'll probably use all day, like nitpicking and getting real OCD with it. I've done a staircase much quicker before, but yeah, so that's, most installs of that size, I tend to block off at least 4 hours, if not more. If I can get more, I'll take more. But
Yeah. What are I've seen some people add things with the balloons. What's the new trend that you're seeing that they're putting, like, it's not, I want to call it streamers. It's not really streamers, but like little
yeah, well,
fringy type things they're added in with it.
I've done I have done streamers. I actually have a bunch. I make them myself, and sometimes it's streamers coming out. I've done fresh flowers, which I love. That's always beautiful. I've done fake flowers. When it's up in the balloons, you can't even tell they're fake. I've done a lot of, like, sometimes I did one where it was like tulle, like the fabric, and it was just kind of coming out little almost like baby's breath, but it was tulle. So yeah, it's you can get creative with it. The hardest part is in the balloons when you try to stick those flowers in.
Oh yeah, that's what I was just thinking. That could be tricky, right?
Yes, it can, but it's doable.
Yeah. Well, I could talk about balloons and fun, pretty stuff all day, but we really appreciate you stopping by. If someone needs a last minute social distancing gift for their mother this weekend, you've got a few spots available, right?
It's limited, but so it's been pretty busy this week. But yes, I do have some spots available. Do my best to make it work. So,
All right, tell everybody where they can find more information.
they can go to my website. It's glitterandlightningcreative.com. They can also find me on Instagram, just as Glitter and Lightning, so, or Facebook.
Yeah.
Both as Glitter and Lightning, but my website's probably the easiest. So, and that's glitterandlightning.com.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks a lot. You guys go check her out. I wish we had pictures. They're amazing. You won't be disappointed. All right. Bye, everybody.